Hello and welcome to the Watch Point Selection Show presented by State Farm. I am Frankie and I have got the glorious Custer and, I'm going to say it because I should start being nice to him, the lovely Reinforce. And if you've just joined us, oh my god, you miss Stitch being absolutely dynamite. And of course, Decay getting
Stitch
his sweet revenge against Dallas Fuel, his former teammates, for the Washington Justice as they took it 3-0. But now, boys, we've got to find out who's going to be playing who tomorrow. Custer, you excited?
I was born excited. I don't know. That was a really interesting match. That it was kind of what we expected of. I didn't think the Dallas Fuel were going to have a solution to the Washington Justice, game plan of Decay on the Xayah and Jano on the Roadhog. I don't really know many teams. I'm really excited moving forward into the playoffs to see who can sort of shut this train down because it looks really strong. Every time I think Decay is out of position or that he's going to die, he just gets nanoed and pocketed into oblivion and then kills 4 people. So I'm really interested to see what the counterplay to this is because Dallas Fuel did not have the solution.
And also, the thing is, right? This has happened so many times in Overwatch history as well, where an underdog sort of continues to perform in the bracket, and we have teams waiting in the wings to see their opponent. So it's likely now that the Washington Justice have just caught this momentum going into the double elimination bracket, and the other teams haven't really had the opportunity to play an official match yet. So we might be in a scenario where some of the higher seeded teams have an idea of what they want to play, they have an idea of how it's going to turn out in the official matches, but Washington Justice, they've already played 2 matches. They know what their strengths are, they know how it plays out in the official matches, and they have this momentum now that they will carry on to later on in the playoffs. So we could be in a scenario where the Washington Justice, purely based on momentum and the fact that they know what they're doing, will end up beating some of these teams that perhaps are still figuring things out and trying to craft an identity with this new playoff meta.
It's really... I want to sort of see what happens and how the meta is going to look like in these top teams. It's not too surprising that as we go higher up in the seedings, we see different things being played. I was expecting more of a dive style to be sort of incorporated in these top teams, but dive doesn't seem to work against this style that the Washington Justice are playing. We've seen some weird things over the last couple of days. We have Atlanta Reign playing a brawl comp. We have Washington Justice pretty much one-tricking this Xayah Roadhog style. And then we've seen some Farah from the Houston Outlaws. We've seen some, just it's all over the place. And I'm excited to see if it's all going to come out in the wash and we're going to see standardized things as we get close to the playoffs. Or if, it's just going to be each team has their style and whoever has the best one is going to win.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think it could be pretty fair to come into the playoffs and say like, well, these are some of the lower seeded teams in the entire league and they might get away with playing these Roadhog compositions with the Zarya. But, the San Francisco Shock, the Philadelphia Fusion, they won't stoop that low. They'll actually play the Winston compositions. They will play the Ash Tracer compositions. But that might not be the case at all. I previously thought that the San Francisco Shock, they would rely heavily on Ans playing something like an Ash, and then they would have Striker playing a Tracer perhaps, and that would be the composition that they would rely on in the playoffs. But now we might find ourselves in a scenario with what the Washington Justice are playing. The Zarya composition might be stronger than that, and these higher seeded teams will be forced to adapt to whatever this composition the Washington Justice are playing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this meta develops moving forward.
Well, Gladiators, Reign and Justice will be advancing to the winners bracket quarterfinals. They have earned themselves an extra life in this competition, and we have the number 1 seed Fusion, number 2 seed Shock, and number 3 seed Mayhem, and number 4 seed Eternal making selections tonight to see who their opponents are going to be tomorrow, gentlemen. And let's not waste any more time. Representing the number 1 seed Philadelphia Fusion is Funny Astro. So we're going to get him on the line. In fact, he's on the line already. It's great to have you on, Funny Astro. We want to get your thoughts on Fusion's 2020 season. What's it like being number 1 in NA?
It's feeling good up here in number 1.
It's just feeling good, you're not flexing on Twitter, you're not trying to psych any of your opponents out, you're just feeling good?
Yeah, we're just ready for the playoffs, ready to win.
You're ready to win. I'm enjoying the fighting talk. I think it's okay. We're going to get your opponent on in a second, so work on it, Funny Astro. Right, you've got your choice of the number 5 seed Valiant, number 6 seed Gladiators, number 7 seed Reign, and number 12 seed Washington Justice. And I'm just going to give you a hint here. They're not looking like a number 12 seed right now. So who will you be facing in the winner bracket quarterfinals?
We're going to go with the number 6 seed Los Angeles Gladiators.
Okay,
now this is
I'm
spicy.
curious. Is this because of what you saw today, or is this, you know, a preemptive pick before this?
I mean, we've never lost to them. We always seem to beat them in the tournaments in the round of 8, so we're really confident against them, and they looked pretty exhausted today, so should be an easy win.
Ooh.
Spicy.
All right then. Well, let's grab in Big Goose from the Gladiators. He didn't do much trash talking yesterday either, but Big Goose, what have you got to say to that? You've not beaten the Fusion so far this season, and he seems to be sleeping on you now. It's Funny Astro.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't really have much to say. We'll see. We'll see tomorrow.
All right, some real fighting spirit going on between these two lads. So, looking at the Gladiators' play so far, Funny Astro, what did you think of their performance then?
I don't think they played that well today. Definitely very beatable. I think we're really confident.
All right on.
I don't think Goose sounds very confident. So.
No, I'm kind of agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely not our best, but
Okay,
it'll be
because
better tomorrow.
Yeah, are you guys confident in your ability to rally and learn from your mistakes today?
Sorry, Costa, what do you say?
Are you confident in your ability to like rally and learn from your mistakes?
Yeah, for sure. We'll also see, take a day at a time. We'll see tomorrow, as I said.
Okay.
Thank you both for stopping by, and best of luck tomorrow, boys. I think Custer and Reinforce, I'm going to get you to like take a player and trash talk on their behalf. Boys, you're free to go and get ready. We'll see you tomorrow. There you go. You can see our first matchup in the bracket there. And Custer, what are your thoughts on Gladiators versus Fusion?
I'm not too surprised by this pick from the Fusion. I think the Gladiators really struggled against the Toronto Defiant, and I think if you're just looking for something of confidence and looking in your history, I think they're pretty happy with the matchup that they're going to go with. You know, they both seem very adamant on just letting the play do the talking, so we'll see tomorrow.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you can bring up that argument, the fact that Philadelphia haven't lost to the Gladiators so far this year. But looking at their past matches, I think that they've had some pretty close matches and certainly very competitive. Looking back at the Melee quarterfinals, we saw both teams would really dive against each other. OG Winston, Sado Winston, great matchup in that regard. And then recently, of course, it was a reverse sweep, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, the Gladiators have certainly brought good gameplay to the past matchup between these two teams. And I think looking at these teams man to man, I wouldn't say that they're too far from each other. Obviously, Alarm is a big presence in the backline for the Philadelphia Fusion, but still, you have a great tank line with the Gladiators, similarly with the Fusion. You have the likes of Kevster and Birdring that can make a big impact on this match. I think this match could be closer than we actually think, and it might be the fact that, you know, Fusion have to reverse sweep the Gladiators once more.
Well, Reinforce, I know you're going to be excited about this one because representing the San Francisco Shock, our number 2 seed, is the one and only Captain Super. It's good to have you back, Super. How you doing? What's your thoughts on the new meta?
I'm doing all right. The meta's a little bit, little crazy.
Are you going to pick up the
that's
hammer?
just how it is sometimes.
You're going to pull out the hammer tomorrow, right? Just play some Reinhardt, you know? Go against the meta?
Please.
Yeah, well, you know, I can't be leaking the strats. You never know. Could be a little creative here and there.
I'd love to see it.
Well, you've got 3 choices left, Super. So I want to know, who are the Shock going to be facing tomorrow?
We are going to pick the Washington Justice.
Ooh. That's pretty unconventional.
Is there something about their play, or how did you make that choice?
I mean, we feel like they've been playing better than, you know, they have been for the earlier parts of the season. But I think we're just kind of confident going into the matchup, and we think Decay has helped them a lot, but we think we can beat them.
Well, mercy me, Ark is on the line. Ark, you got your head in your hands. Are you scared?
I mean, Super is now like Shirt Palm or like the like Pegas. I don't like Shock. Not gonna lie.
Uh-oh.
I don't like Super personally.
So are you okay?
I'm
so
just
you
gonna do
guys
my
have
job.
Wait, but it's third time already, you know?
But, okay, Ark, you have been looking a lot better with Decay on that tank. Are you guys confident in your play? Because, you know, the San Francisco Shock, they seem pretty confident about what you're sort of bringing to the table right now.
I think we're confident than like before for sure. I don't know if we can win, but we have a higher chance than before, and like before, like we had like 4 matches with Shock this season, but we got stumped, not gonna lie. But I think in this match would be closer than that.
All right, Super, if I may ask you a question. You know, you've been watching these playing games now, and obviously I don't want you to leak any strats overall. But what's your thoughts on the meta so far? Do you think that these matches are pretty representative of what is the best right now? Do you think we'll see more Roadhog, etc.? What's your take on what the matches we've seen so far?
I think a lot of teams experimented with a bunch of different comps and strategies, and depending on who you played in a day in scrims, like you could have run into maybe 4 different strategies, and you got to try and figure out, okay, well, is this good on this map, or is it better on this one? So I think there's a lot of variety depending on which teams are playing, and you'll probably continue to see that.
All right.
Well, any more questions, gentlemen? Custer, would you like to ask anything of Shock before we let these boys go?
Nah, I'm going to let them do the talking for tomorrow as well. So, you know, this is a weird matchup because, as Ark said, we haven't really seen these two as close so far this season. So I want to see if the Justice can bring it to them.
All right, well, I want to see you coming out with more confidence tomorrow, young man, because you don't seem to think you can win right now, and that's kind of concerning me. So I'll let you go celebrate.
I think we're gonna win,
okay?
but I'm not sure about like what score it's gonna be.
But right, so you are going to win.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, hang on. Okay, Super, how many maps do you think it's going to take for you to win tomorrow?
Probably 3. I mean, I'm never gonna go into a match thinking that I'm gonna lose, so, you know.
All right, three maps for Super. Ark, how many maps you saying? He has to think about this. This is scaring me. Honestly, I was rooting for you, Ark. I was rooting for you, Ark, and now I'm slightly concerned. So you know what? We're gonna let you boys go. Ark, just think about things. Maybe meditate. Just talk to your team. Like build up your confidence because we got 4 matches tomorrow. We could be going to 5 maps, and I'm cool with that. I just want to see a good show. I want to see a good fight. All right. Thank you so much, boys. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, well, Reinforce. I feel like Ark doesn't know which way it's going to go. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow between these two teams?
Look, man, you can't blame Ark too much. The man has PTSD, okay? It's been a rough regular season for the Washington Justice, but now they go into this matchup, and I don't even think Ark has really realized how good of a team they've been so far this playoffs. So I think that, yes, the Washington Justice, they are on the rise. They're looking really strong behind the Zarya. And the fact that they're able to clutch out fights, like this entire concept of clutching, it's like they've just managed to extract this new idea from their minds just as we start the Overwatch League playoffs. It's surreal, really, to watch them play like this. So I think it's going to be a pretty competitive match. Then again, San Francisco Shock, they are the juggernauts of the Overwatch League these past 2 years. It's going to be so hard to call because despite how good the Washington Justice have looked, you can't underestimate the San Francisco Shock. So interesting to see what we'll see from both teams.
I'm still a little surprised that they didn't pick the Atlanta Reign. I think the Atlanta Reign have looked a little shaky, and they really only showed one really good look in this Brawl style. So I'm excited to see if the Shock is doing this because they understand how they want to beat down the Decay Zarya, or if they're just not confident against the Brawl style that the Atlanta Reign is bringing.
Well, maybe it's the case that Shock just think, well, we're better than everyone here, so we can play whoever we want. But right now, we're going to keep things going. Our next selector, representing the number 3 seed Paris Eternal, is Soon. Oh, I'm really excited to talk to Soon. Hello, how are you doing?
Hello, everyone. I'm good. What about you?
Yeah, très bien, merci. We're down to 2 teams. So who are Paris Eternal going to be selecting to play tomorrow?
So, We are gonna pick Atlanta Reign.
Oh.
Atlanta Reign.
There it is.
Is that
I'm pretty
based
sure
off
you're
of...
thinking I'm gonna pick Valiant, Costa.
I was kind of hoping you'd pick Valiant for the grudge match. I really wanted it from you soon, but it makes more sense. Is it because of what you've seen from them today, or you like have an idea of what they're gonna play?
We don't know what they're gonna run because we didn't scream against them for a long time now. And like you know me, like we like to do like surprise, and yeah, I think when I saw like we didn't saw Valiant, so Valiant could be more prepared than Atlanta because Atlanta has to prepare their match against Boston. So that's why we pick Atlanta Reign.
Well, we've got Dogman back on the show. What's your reaction to being picked by the Eternal?
I think we feel pretty confident about it, like the other top 2 teams. I think realistically, the top 4 teams are really good, but Paris is probably the worst out of the top 4, so we feel pretty confident about the matchup versus Paris Eternal.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I didn't play last time versus the Paris, but overall, they almost lost to us. So I think we can get them this time around. I think they're probably just, I don't know, just not as good as the other teams. That's really it.
All right, fair enough.
Soon, you want to clap back to this one at all?
Well, we're gonna see in the match tomorrow, but what I'm gonna say is like we all the time winning, so we're gonna see.
That is a good line. It's true.
Dogman, how
strong.
do you feel about Atlanta Reign's performance today?
I mean, I thought it was pretty solid. I think Boston hit us with some cheese on some other maps with the Hog, but I mean, it's not really cheese. We probably didn't have the best comp prepared, so, you know, we might change things, we might not. But I think we played pretty good overall. I mean, Boston leveled up towards the end of the year, and I'm sure they've been doing decent in scrims. So, you know, we'll see how we do versus Paris.
Soon, do you think that Atlanta Reign played well today?
I didn't see the match entirely because I was playing the game. I was playing Overwatch to be prepared tomorrow. So, but I just know that they lose one map, and I know it was really close. So I think they struggle on some comp.
What do you think of the meta so far right now, Soon? Because it seems pretty up in the air. Are you guys confident heading into the playoffs with the current, meta that it is right now?
I'm gonna be same as Super. I'm not gonna leak anything, but like Super said, there's a ton of different comp on scrims, and yeah, some are good, some are bad, depend on maps and opponents.
Makes sense.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, boys. Slightly mysterious from the 2 of you, but we'll see you guys go head-to-head tomorrow. A bientôt.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm waiting for them to go before I talk about how it makes me nervous talking to Soon, because he like, I used to watch his Tracer videos when I started playing Overwatch, so like I get a little bit flushed, boys. Right, Custom, what do you like about this
matchup? You know they can
matchup?
go back to the VOD, right? You know we're broadcasting, so he could just go back to the broadcast and watch
Frankie,
later.
don't worry. I get a little flush when I played with Soon as well. He's a phenomenal player. I'm interested to see if we're going to get Soon on the Tracer heading into this playoffs. But yeah, like, I think this is a really interesting match. Like, we haven't seen the Paris Eternal before, and I think if Dogman is confident in their team's ability to sort of learn from some of their mistakes and not sort of get disheartened because it was a better Boston, it could be a lot closer matches, because I agree with Dogman on the fact that I think Paris Eternal probably is one of the weaker teams in this current meta for the top 4 teams.
Yeah. Also, I'm really excited to see the Paris Eternal tomorrow, because as Soon said, they probably have some surprises, to show us as well. We've seen how crazy the meta can be so far this playoffs with lots of different compositions. And Paris Eternal generally have been one of the better teams when it comes to be flexible and play wacky compositions and experiment with some new stuff. So, I mean, going into tomorrow's matchup, it's going to be so ridiculously hard for the Atlanta Reign to really strategically prep for the Paris Eternal. They might just bring anything to the mix. I mean, it can be a Sparkle Genji.
No.
I mean, we saw Doa's Genji today. Not that great. Because it's Sparkle Genji, Doomfist, Pharah. I mean, they can bring whatever to the matchup, really, and have good performances. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup.
No more Genji. Genji's dead. Right, we're joined by the last two remaining teams who will face up in our final quarterfinals match. We've got General Manager Albert from number 4 seed Florida Mayhem and McGravy from number 5 seed LA Valiant. Welcome, boys. And look, unfortunately, you didn't get to select your opponent sitting in the 4th spot, Albert. So what are your thoughts on facing Valiant?
Old friends. Hopefully we get the 2-0. Or sorry, get 1 win out of 3. We've only lost them so far this season, so we'll see. But I'm confident heading in. I think we've done the prep. I think we lock KSP up and we'll win.
Well, that's a really interesting thing because you said 2-0. Last time you guys went up 2-0 against the Valiant, KSP came out monstrous. McGravy, are you guys confident that you can do that again?
I mean, KSP is KSP. That man's gonna do that every time. So, you know, you can say you can lock down KSP, but that man's a monster. He's a machine. You can't really lock him down. You just gotta try and limit as much as you can.
Valiant, I want to hear from you, McGravy, of course. How have you sort of adapted to this meta? Looking at the matches so far this week, what are your thoughts on the meta so far going into your matchup tomorrow?
It's hard to even call it a meta because so many teams play different styles. And I think Super mentioned it earlier that every block, every map that you play against certain teams is different. So it's just be able to adjust on the fly and play what you're comfortable with.
Is it hard to be confident in a playstyle when you can't really lock down what is the best composition? And I mean, we can start with you, McGravy, but then also to Albert later on. Like, when you're going up in these scrims and there's so many different kind of compositions, how do you really dictate what works best for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get flustered. Like I said, the biggest thing is just falling back on your strengths and realizing what you're good at, and just not freaking out too much about results and scrims and just sticking to your game.
And Albert, you agree with that?
I think on my part, I think it's more important to be flexible. I think so far in the play-ins, we've seen a lot of teams kind of one-trick comps, and then when it stops working, they don't really have another fallback or a counter. So I think it's super important to be flexible, and I think not having to play in play-ins gave us more time to experiment with comps and figure out more comps.
So,
McGravy, how do you... Oh, I'm so sorry, Custer. I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to go.
Okay.
Gentlemen
I want to
first.
ask one to Albert because I'm actually curious. Is your team happy with this rematch? Because you guys lost in pretty spectacular fashion recently. Do they want revenge?
Okay, Valiant fan, calm down, okay? You can't just put down Albert repeatedly. Come on,
I want
man.
it to be exciting.
No, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we need to beat Valiant to prove that we're top 4. I think Valiant's always... We're one of the cusp of top 4, and people are like, oh, do they deserve being top 4, or should Valiant be ahead of us? So I think we've always there's always this like shadow looming over us that we need to beat Valiant. I think Atlanta would obviously be easier since we match up much more favorably against them from the regular season and in tournament settings. But we'd have to get through Valiant either way. So I think it's fine. Better to get it out of the way early than later.
McGravy, as a tank player, who has got the best tank lineup in the Overwatch League?
No.
I need you to weigh on this debate.
I feel like you guys are just throwing out takes just to throw out takes at this point. I feel like we're going to play tomorrow, and there'll be 3 different takes on the tank line, so it's impossible to tell. You guys are just taking for takes, in my opinion.
So it's not the Boston Uprising? Are you sure?
Pretty sure. They're not in the playoffs.
It can't be. They're not even in the playoffs anymore. So how could they?
Exactly.
Guys, they could have the best tank line, but the rest of the players didn't step up to the plate. I'm just being devil's advocate, aka sideshow here.
I'm so over this. I'm done.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing your tank lines and so much more. What? Weigh in, Albert. Weigh in. Come
Atlanta,
on, please.
It must be Atlanta though, because they beat Boston, who was the best. So if they beat the best, that means they're the best now. So I think it has to be Gator and Hawk.
So literally, you've got to beat them to then be crowned the best.
Yeah, whoever beats Atlanta is then the new best tank line. That's just
then
how it
it'll
works.
be Paris, and then whoever beats
Paris,
yeah, it's all gone.
Okay.
Makes sense.
I'm just saying, Albert, if things don't work out as the Florida Mayhem GM, you might get a job on the desk because that's some flawless logic right there.
Listen, I always keep my doors open.
That's it.
All right.
Gentlemen.
All right. Well, Costa, now you know that your job is in danger. So,
It's always in danger. Don't worry
stay
about that.
Well, I mean, I feel exactly the same way, and maybe that's the best way to be. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. I am really looking forward now to this matchup. I'm hoping, can we just get both of you on the desk afterwards just to discuss what happened? I think we should make that happen.
I'm down.
Oh, boy.
Just give me a call.
Brilliant.
let's do it.
Well, there you
Run it
go.
back.
There you go. Hold you to that. Thank you so much, gentlemen. See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, there it is.
A little bit of spirited fighting talk. Reinforce then. Valiant versus Mayhem.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea how this matchup is going to turn out. I'm going to be completely honest with you, because in my mind, these two teams have been some of the most inflexible teams of the season so far. Generally, when you think of these two teams, you generally think of like the Valiant. Okay, KSP likes to play the Ashe, the Widowmaker, and then you can have Shax. He's a very aggressive tracer. Of course, KSF, some good performance on Genji recently in the Summer Showdown and the Countdown Cup. We really saw that come alive. But for the Florida Mayhem as well, BQB likes to play that Ashe, likes to play the Widowmaker. But Yaki has been the flexible damage player on the side of that team. So now we're going to playoffs. Like every player literally on the selection show have said, the meta is just like in a state of flux. Like there's tons of strategies coming out, tons of different compositions, and now we get to see both of the two of these teams adapt. So I think the coaching staff will have a lot of say in how this matchup turns out. I think that, this matchup might borderline already be decided before we even get in game, because if you have the wrong composition against your opponent, that could become very troublesome. So excited to see how this matchup turns out with that in mind and these two teams' performances so far this season.
I think it's really interesting because both these teams are inflexible kind of in the same way. They have a very prominent hit scan player, and then they sort of like play the... If you put KSF and Shax as a player together, that sort of equals Yaki, and that's why these two teams have very similar styles of how they play the game. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see them end up on the same thing. The major difference that I would expect is I think Florida Mayhem are more likely to play a dive style, while Los Angeles Gladiators I think would go more towards maybe that Roadhog Xayah style. So I want to see what they bring out tomorrow, because that's where it all matters, because as Johnny said, it's all up in the air, it's all in flux, and it's a very stylistic matchup type thing in this meta.